Attention, please be advised. The following episode contains spoilers. Don't say we didn't warn you.
Is it going to be like Captain Planet, where all the powers combine?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but like real fucked up.
Nerd On.
What's up, world? Welcome to Nerd On, the podcast you didn't need, but the one you deserve. My name is Tom, and we're going to go around the horn before we introduce our topic. To my left.
What's up? C Money, C Pow Pow over here on mic number 1.
C Pow Pow.
C Pow Pow.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has mic 1. I have mic Omega. He has mic A and mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Content creator, filmmaker without Tom sometimes, but mostly with Tom. And Blizzard.
X-rated.
Tom is
content.
at least there.
Blizzard
somewhere.
fangirl. Yeah. Tom has his finger in a lot of my pies. Oh. Ali,
his holes,
you
too.
next.
Ali, aka Future Foe, aka Prince Ali, aka YouTuber, Twitch broadcaster,
Ali Ababwa.
Marvelous He, aka Handsome as He.
Shout out to Disney.
And no fingers in Corey's pies.
And to my left,
I'm Josh. I have nothing witty to say about who I am except for I'm just Josh. I'm one of the producers, one of the hosts. I do the audio for the show. Yeah, I'm just Josh.
And today, I am only the comic book fiend and the film snob, the wet blanket, the angry, grumpy guy that has problems with everything, can't just enjoy things.
Everything.
And today, we are talking about Thor Ragnarok. It is
this is
Thor's
when we
Day,
need you most.
and we're talking about Thor. And we can't talk about Thor without talking about the first two films and the other Avengers tie-ins. So now,
Yeah,
right.
we're talking like comic book stuff. Like
So we're going to do
tie-ins.
some exposition?
Yeah, we got to talk a little bit about that. So, the first movie, Thor, directed by the lovely Kenneth Branagh. I love this man.
Yeah.
I love him so much.
Very Shakespearean.
Yeah. I love that movie. What do you guys? You guys watched it?
Oh, yeah.
I like it a lot.
It wasn't my favorite out of all the Marvel films, but I did enjoy it.
And this is phase 1. So this happened. So Iron Man 1 came out, Iron Man 2 came out, then Thor had come out. And by this time, The Incredible Hulk had come out, but no one remembers that.
The Incredible Sulk, where he cries the entire time.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he was about to get busy too. I'm just saying.
That's the Banner version
Yeah.
with Nick Nolte.
So bad.
Nick Nolte was the only saving grace of that whole film.
I love him. But
That was a movie that actually my dad and I, when I was growing up, we always had a tradition where we'd go to a movie once a month. And that movie, we got to the end of it and we both were quiet. And we both went, can we have a new rule? I was like, yeah, sure. What do you think? If you don't like a movie, can you tell the other person and we'll just walk out? I was like, oh my gosh, you didn't like it either?
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, my dad and I saw the same movie, and he's the one who came up with the Incredible Sulk when we came out. He was like, Incredible Hulk, more like Incredible Sulk. And I was like, yeah, Dad. Yeah.
So Thor is in phase 1 of Marvel's MCU. This takes place right after the events of Iron Man 1, where Agent Coulson is going to New Mexico to find out what's going on with this thing, and it's this hammer.
Iron Man 2, I think, right?
Is it Iron Man 2?
I thought it was. Maybe not.
Is that where they find the hammer?
Hammer.
No.
Hammer time?
No?
I feel like it's
Am
I wrong?
Fury?
I feel
at
like
the end?
yeah, you're right.
Because he tells him to like go like look at your stuff, look at your like watch your dad movie or whatever while I go take care of something.
Oh, yeah. And then he calls on the phone with the end credit scene. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Thor 1, pretty much the Thor origin story, right? He's a
Thorgin story.
Asgardian warrior.
You were giving me crap about the puns.
Yeah.
It's origin story for the god of thunder who has to have this story of humility and gets put down to earth, which is a bit of a stray from the actual comic book, because what happens is that Thor is not, put down on earth as Thor. He's put down into the body of a paraplegic doctor named Donald Blake. And so Donald Blake is, a doctor, even though he's paraplegic. So it's like Thor's mindset of like, how can this weak person that can't offer like his strength and blah, 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 help people? And so that's where that kind of like kind of cool love story happens in like Thor, where that happens and he learns to love Jane Foster.
Odin banishes him because he's like cocky as shit.
Yeah.
right?
So yeah, it's a big humility story. So the MCU took some liberties. Kevin Feige, the kind of like just genius behind everything, the one producer that gets like the top billing, like this is produced by him, pretty much runs the show. And what we're seeing is that there's some things that are changing out of there. I think it's pretty fun. You have Loki, who's the main villain in there. You got some of the lore
good.
talking about the Bifrost. You get introduction to Heimdall and just kind of how the rules of the universe works. And this is the first MCU attempt to take us to space, which is funny because later on they end up talking about how Guardians of the Galaxy was the first one to do so. But to me, this is pretty fantastic in terms of like just the fantasy appeal.
Right, because you're talking about not only taking you to different planets in space, but also Asgard.
Yeah.
Which is
Asgard.
Yeah, Asgard. Because the thing about Guardians is they're already kind of in space. The only time you see Earth is for like a minute and a half in the beginning of the first one, and that's kind of it. But it takes it from Earth bound to an entirely new planet.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing that they explained in that movie was like how, these gods that people have perceived are actually just aliens. They're pretty much just on another planet.
Yeah, the whole like line with like if it's science that you can't like understand, it's perceived as magic or whatever.
And then he says, in my where I'm from, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
Wait, is Asgard a planet or is it more of like a gateway? Like, what is it? Because there's the tree of the 9 kingdoms.
Yeah,
or
the 9 realms.
9 realms. Like,
there's Asgard, there's Midgard, there's other places too. So I mean, the way I've always kind of pictured it, and I think it's kind of explained, is they're planets.
Okay.
Like we're in Asgard, they're the Asgardians, and then Earth would be called Midgard.
Okay.
Yeah. So so you go on with the movie. You got Kat Dennings in there. You got Alex Skarsgård, who plays a big role in Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So moving on to Avengers, now we have Thor, who's trying to find his brother who has escaped. And I always kind of deemed Avengers as like Thor 2.
Yeah, I can feel that.
Or like Thor is like the prequel, like the prologue to Avengers.
To Avengers.
Yeah.
I do have to comment real quick. Tom Hiddleston as Loki is.
Oh yeah.
I get
have a
it.
man crush.
A lot of people are like, well, why is it the same villain every time? I was like, well, because
it's
fucking
Tom.
great. He's great
Well,
as that character.
And the big thing in terms of like the huge Marvel Cinematic nerd herd community, they've been saying like the only good villain that MCU has come out with is Loki. Because
you care, you want him to be good so bad.
Yeah, because when he saves the cat, he's kind of like I think of him as that character in Lost. He was the con man. Did you guys watch Lost?
Oh, Sawyer?
Sawyer. I think of him like Sawyer because Sawyer.
Pull that out of my ass.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sawyer would do all this cool shit, do all these cool things, and then just spend all of his cool points on this really fucked up thing. And that's what Loki is kind of like for me. He saves the cat, and you're like, yeah.
Well,
No.
he's like a multi-layered, multi-dimensional character. That's not just like evil for evil's sake or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's almost sometimes like his instinct as a trickster god takes over, and he like almost can't help himself sometimes, which I think is pretty cool.
I mean, and the thing about Loki is like you immediately identify and you kind of appeal, because the thing is like his intentions aren't really like I'm gonna try to take over the world and all that stuff. It's more like my father doesn't love me, and I'm trying to take the throne. So I mean, like he plays that partial part, like one-dimensional villain, but also like you see his internal struggle with his father and how like Thor is the favored son and everything like that. So and then he ends up finding out that his entire existence was a lie, that he was given as part of a treaty. Yeah. And, he's actually an ice giant. So that's pretty cool in doing that. And then leading on to Avengers.
He also has that struggle with his brother, who continually forgives him and loves him unconditionally, even though he's done all this fucked up shit over and over and over again the entire time they grew up together. So I'm glad they touch on that a little bit in the films as well.
Yeah.
Not so much in Avengers.
Especially in this.
Well, in
Thor
Avengers,
Ragnarok.
they have that whole scene upon the mountaintop together.
Yeah.
Which was written in iambic pentameter and beautifully written. I loved that.
Which is good. And in Avengers, Loki's trying to take over the world. He's got the Chitauri army, which actually, I think there was in rumors in the space in the world with that they were supposed to be the Skrulls. And the Skrull, but the thing is, 20th Century Fox has the rights to the Skrulls because the Skrulls is originally a Fantastic Four villain.
Gotcha.
And so instead they just created the Chitauri, which actually is really cool because it ended up just opening this umbrella for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all these cool little one-shots. Again, Joss Whedon's first directing attempt or at the MCU stuff. And then moving on to Thor Dark World. Now, this is directed by Alan Taylor, who did a lot of Game of Thrones things. So now you have the one movie, they have the Avengers World Event tie-in.
Don't forget about the Tesseract from the first one as well.
And the Tesseract. So the Tesseract,
important.
one of the 5 Infinity Stones. That becomes pretty much like the net, the string, the common thread that ties all the movies of what is really happening. Why are these films revolving around these things? And it's really cool seeing how in phase 1 that's now 10 years later, we're now at this point where we're going to get the final big payoff. But in Dark World, Thor Dark World starts off with the Dark Elves talking about how, there was, this ancient evil, and then also now bringing in another Infinity Stone, the Aether, which right now they have not spoken of exactly which stone is what because they've changed the names and changed the colors. So there's, one of power, time, soul, and all that. And specifically, like in most recently that we've seen is Doctor Strange, and they had the Stone of Time.
Right.
But that's the only one we know.
Is it going to be like Captain Planet, where all the powers combined?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
But like real fucked up. Yeah. Like if you called Captain Planet and he just came and destroyed your house, and then went to your neighbor's house and knocked that down too, and then the entire planet,
like not
and then,
Kool-Aid
punched
Man
a
style.
puppy.
Yeah.
And was
Right.
Like, okay.
If Captain Planet was a dying star, that'd be it.
Got it. Understood.
Which is funny. I like it you bring up Dying Star because it actually brings up one of like the cool introductory like mechanics that you see of Thor and how he could throw his hammer and then he can call upon it anywhere he goes. They showed that in Avengers where he's fighting Hulk, which was a great little taste satiator for all those like nerds out there who are like, I want to see the fight. Because then you have your two, brawl house, big guys who can, pack a punch. But in Dark World, continues off and it's a very different feel. You got Thor, like a fish out of water comedy. You didn't really rely too much on the action. And, the second one was very much reliant on the fact like, cool, these Infinity Stones have happened. It's like, what do you do after
Some
Avengers?
real shit.
Darker tones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
And they introduced Idris Elba's character.
No, Heimdall was in the first one.
Was he?
Yeah, he was.
Heimdall was... He
just wasn't as big and featured as he
That's
was
probably
later
what it
on.
was.
Yeah.
With the sword. With the sword,
And he had like the golden armor and all that stuff.
Oh, Idris Elba.
Yeah.
So good.
Sexy. Anyways,
Hashtag that's my James Bond.
but I think what happened
yes.
what happened a lot with Thor Dark World was the same kind of thing what happened with Iron Man 3. It was kind of like, how do you go from Avengers, which was like critically acclaimed, box office hit, and then go to a reason why are we going to have a solo movie? Because like now you have this team and it's like, how are you going to justify having world-ending events without the rest of the team?
Right.
So I think that's definitely always, a tough plate to spin. But this kind of then just introduced the Aether. Loki is imprisoned at this point, and it isn't until spoilers. No, not really a spoiler because it's like 7 years ago. Their mother, Frigga, dies, who's played by Renee Russo.
Yes.
And she's a dame. She's aged quite well. She dies. Yes. I remember watching her from Lethal
Would
Weapon.
you call her Bae Russo?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nice.
So she
More
dies.
puns to come.
She dies and forces Thor and Loki to work together. And now Odin is back in the Odin sleep. And it's kind of weird because like Odin at this point from the first movie is like, the whole reason why Thor got sent to Earth was like, you have to be, looking for peace for, if you want to be king someday, like you can't be
It's like benevolent.
looking for war and all that
focused.
stuff. And that becomes like a really big,
Well, it's the great power, great responsibility thing that is always there. It's like he had to learn, like in the first one, he had to learn, like, yeah, you have this power, you do, and it's always there. But he had to learn how to be, use it and be responsible about it and not be a jackass.
Yeah. And I mean, the thing was like, this starts out with him starting a war with the ice giants, even though like something might have happened and Odin's kind of like, cool, we have to forgive it because we can't start a war with them. And then Thor's like, no, it's like before you used to have days of glory where you would just like demolish armies. And then Odin's like, that's not the way anymore. Like you want to have peace for your people. And in the second one, Jane gets possessed or whatever, the aether is infused in her. And so it's an infinity stone and Odin loses his shit. So it's really weird to see that kind of benevolent Odin that all of a sudden it's like, we have to kill her. It's like, it doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah.
Do you think, because I haven't seen the second one, unfortunately, but do you think that it had anything to do with him understanding what that stone is? Do you think that was like, yeah, peace, but like that is a stone that can destroy the entire galaxy. We need to fucking
That's a
stop
bad
that.
jam. You want to stay away from that.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing that's tough with that is because at this point, the Tesseract is in Asgard as well. It's in the Asgardian vault. And so for me, like the motivation for that is like, bro, you already have very like world-ending things in your vault. Why are you so worried about this one here? And to me, I guess they didn't say it explicitly that like why he was so upset about it.
Gotcha.
But at the very end, you know, you kind of have Christopher Eccleston, who I adore as an actor, playing the villain, and then you have Thor and Loki team up to fight him, and you think it's really cool because, you know, after 2 movies, you kind of really grown to like Loki.
You do like Loki.
Yeah.
He's a guy that you love to hate and, you know, hate to love. And he's always funny. You know, Tom Hiddleston has this type of like just swag and, you know, debonair, like charm to him. And, you know, throughout this fight, he has to, you know, fighting the dark elf.
Even though he looks like a really handsome Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. Loki is apparently dead. Loki apparently dies. And the cool thing before that, it sets it up in an interesting way. I remember I was in the theater and I was next to my friend who's a huge Thor fan. And like one of the first fight scenes.
Shout out to your friend.
His name is David Barry from the Capes Crusaders.
Shout out to David Barry and the Capeless Crusaders.
First thing that happens is like Thor's arm gets cut off. And you're like, oh my God. Because what happened in the comics at the time, Thor actually has like a metal arm. So it's like, oh, dude, are they like going faster and like going into that stuff? And then you find out that was all an illusion because Loki, you know, master of mischief and all that.
Trickster god.
Yeah. And then later on, Loki dies. And you're like, oh. And then my friend just says, I'm like, dude, are you serious? And my friend David Barry just looks at me like, master of mischief. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Master of mischief.
And again, we've never seen it, so he just knew. Yeah. And then all, you know, the resolution for everything, a world-ending fight, which is, you know, pretty cool, you know, cinematic just to watch for a popcorn movie, ends with Loki pulling a fast one. And so at the very end, Thor is kind of left with like, do I have the life on Asgard and, you know, take the throne someday, or do I live with Jane, you know, my love of my life? And he finally makes the decision, like, I'm going to go live on Earth. Because, you know, him and Jane Foster was a thing, which really didn't show a lot on screen, but, you know, you see some of the friction between that. And then at the very end, when he leaves and Odin says, like, the throne will be waiting for you, it's actually Loki. And so that's what ends that arc until Age of Ultron. And Age of Ultron, no Jane Foster, no Loki, just Thor
on a vision quest.
Fighting robots, and then,
Going
on a
into
vision
pools.
quest.
Well, they had to get a topless shot of him. So
Yeah. And then he has a vision
I'm
of
so glad that they did.
That was the reason I wanted to watch it.
Poor ugly man. Poor
guy.
Must be really hard to be that man.
And then he has visions of Ragnarok, which for me, I've always said that Age of Ultron was kind of like just this big setup for Phase 3. And
would you call it Iron Man 4?
yes, that's Iron Man 4.
Okay.
Because it's all about Iron Man's story and him like, I need to live forward and like make
I need
robots.
to protect everybody.
Yeah, it's like, all right, shut up. And also, so what happens at the end is the Hulk and the cool development that happens between him and Natasha Romanoff, which, to my knowledge, has never been a thing in the comic books. You've had Black Widow be a thing with Iron Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, never the Hulk.
Can I speak on that for a sec?
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that, actually. I dug it. You didn't at all.
I made a grimace every once in a
Yeah,
while.
he did. I mean, if we're within this MCU, to me, it kind of made sense. And the scene within Age of Ultron that they have together, where they both explain that
The
they're
sun's
like,
coming down.
No, not that one.
Oh,
Where
when they're in the
have-
barn?
where they have the conversation about where she came from and why she's the way she is, and why she's changed what she considers herself a quote unquote monster.
Still
as well.
no origin movie.
I know it sucks.
Yeah.
So I
Well, because we
actually-
couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
We would not be able to handle
Entire movie.
Because we couldn't
Black
handle
Widow.
a Wonder Woman.
No.
No.
But I don't know. For me, that scene made me go, okay, I get it.
And I have to agree as well. Like, I think it worked, and I've already come to peace with the fact that the MCU is going to make some changes from the comics, and they kind of have to for the fact that it's, a series of movies and you can't spend a ton of time with it. So I'm okay with stuff like that, and there's been plenty of examples, and we'll go over that in Thor Ragnarok here in a little bit, how that kind of some of those changes also, they had to make for better or for worse. Yeah. But yeah, with the whole Natasha Romanoff, I think it was important for Hulk. The whole Hulk thing is so kind of tough to deal with him not being able to have his own movie or not having his own movie in the MCU or whatever, like since Incredible Hulk or whatever. And this is kind of like a way to ground him and have him be more human and develop that character as much as they can. So I think it works.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like some interesting things. The reason why I was such disappointed with Age of Ultron. This isn't an Age of Ultron episode, but the thing is, before that, they had Captain America, Winter Soldier, and they had Captain America and Black Widow pretty much be with each other the entire time. And for me, if there was a relationship to build, was that.
Yeah,
and
they were starting to
and I mean, I love that. That to me just felt more organic. And obviously, again, I'm not in the writer's room. I don't know what happened in like the studio up top there, but I understand. I understand again, like Joss Whedon's mentality of like, you have characters. Why don't you have them play with each other? Why don't you have them work with each other and build relationships? So it's like, it makes sense for that to happen, especially like you can't have the entire movie be revolving around, Steve Rogers' relationship with Black Widow and, Tony Stark. So it makes sense to that at that point. But also, I think the thing I just kind of got irritated with was just like, I don't know. It's just like, I just felt like it was just kind of just pushed in. It kind of felt very forced for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll have a bigger MCU episode where we talk more about like Age of Ultron, because I have a lot of similar kind of gripes with it.
Sounds like a future episode.
Yeah.
Ooh, great. Another thing to add to the 2-page list.
So we'll move on real quick to the actual main event. And so the film Age of Ultron ends with the Hulk in the entire time. And I guess this is a big thing that in Avengers 1, it was the first time you saw Bruce Banner say, "My problem is that I'm always angry."
Oh God, it's so good.
And the thing is like you've in the Eric Bana, Ang Lee, in the Edward Norton, who knows who the director is, he's constantly struggling to control the Hulk, and always been like, let me unleash it in a right direction. Yeah. And this time it's like, I could control it because I've always been angry. It's just it's a matter of me letting it out. And that was a really great thing to see, was that like, because that's pretty much something that people have wanted to see since the Hulk animated series, since the Hulk comic books. Like there's multiple versions of the Hulk, and it's about of what control does he give him. Yeah. And there's more of a battle between the two other than just like a werewolf kind of syndrome.
Right. And
then in Age of Ultron, it kind of like, no, I don't have really that much control anymore. I'm afraid I'm going to hurt you. So,
well, because he became under what's her
Scarlet
name
Witch.
spell? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Scarlet Witch's spell. That probably funked with some shit.
Yeah, so that's cool. And so at the end of the day, the Hulk ends up making the decision to be on the Quinjet, throwing James Spader Ultron off the Quinjet, and really kind of thinking like, I need to leave, and so I'm not causing any harm. Put stealth mode on.
He's
the
a
Quinjet.
very troubled soul.
Yeah,
He is.
and that's literally like the term of like they're just misunderstood.
I think there needs to be another Hulk movie.
With Mark Ruffalo. Oh,
Yeah.
And he flies off, and at the very end, Thor just leaves because he says he has to figure things out. And that leads us to
Thor Dragoncock.
yes.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? I missed it.
Yeah.
Weird.
They changed the name last minute to Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But it rhymes with,
It didn't work in focus groups.
Banana Bobana.
Yeah.
So now this has been like 3 years since we've seen a Thor, because Civil War happened, which was a big tie-in event. And that was a big question. It's like, where is Thor and where is Banner?
Yeah. And quickly, I do want to shout out. I think it's good. We might, throw something in the description or at the top of the episode or something, but spoilers.
Yeah.
We're going to jump like right into spoilers.
There's going to be
for
spoilers
Ragnarok.
all up in this bitch.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen it, pause, go to your multiplex.
I know they're showing it.
They're showing it right now.
Right
Watch
now.
playing in 10 minutes.
and then come back and
then
press
come back.
play.
Yes. One thing I really liked about this one was kind of how it started out. The first time we saw Thor since Civil War was in a Doctor Strange post-credit scene. And Doctor Strange says,
Right.
I will help you find, I think he says Loki. Or he says his son, because in the movie he says, I'll help you find Odin. I'll help you find your
Right.
father. But I think in the post-credit scenes, I'll help you find Loki.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really
Kind
cool.
of like they changed it afterwards.
Yeah.
They were like,
There's a big thing. Before we get into like the summary of it, one big thing that was a super change, like you could tell from trailer 1 to this one, was when Hela breaks the hammer.
Yep.
Hela is breaking the hammer in open field, and in trailer 1, they're in like an alleyway,
Yeah.
like a cityscape alleyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
And
even
so-
notice
oh,
that.
I thought it was Asgard.
Oh,
I think I remember, but I could be wrong.
And I laughed
Which I probably am.
my ass off when I was in the theater because they're like, look at this beautiful size. Like, yeah, it's green screen. I was like, it's not beautiful. Anyways, because obviously something had to change. I don't know what it was, but something had to change. But let's get right into it. The story, Thor Ragnarok, takes place in the middle. We're in medias res. And the one word that I do know. 3 words. I don't know. Thor's chained up, and there's this like Diablo looking dude. I don't even know his name.
I don't remember his name, but he's supposed to be the bringer of what they call Ragnarok, which is the destruction of Asgard, which apparently was a cycle. I learned about recently. It was like every 5,000 years or something like that. Asgard gets destroyed, everybody gets killed, and then it resets.
And the thing that Odin wanted to do was have, I guess part of the prophecy was to have his son Thor break that chain.
Right. Well, he did. He stopped it.
Yeah.
He stopped it by, I think, blocking up Hela.
Odin.
Yeah.
Well-
and he stopped the last cycle from happening.
And this time Thor is having visions of Ragnarok and all that stuff. And so what he does, he takes this takes this crown from this fire demon dude, and then brings it to the Asgardian vault. What he doesn't know is how
Surtur, something like that. I don't remember. So close.
I think it's Surger or something.
Yeah.
It's something like that.
Yeah.
It's some sort of sir.
we'll find out.
He looks like Diablo from Blizzard.
You could look it up.
Yeah.
And what he doesn't know is that how Loki has taken over Asgard. And he goes to Asgard. He sees this like awesome play, which like I want to have someone talk
Quote
about.
unquote awesome. Yeah.
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon is
Damon.
Loki.
Sam Neill.
Sam Neill is Odin, and then Luke Hemsworth playing Thor in the play, which
So
is
good.
wonderful.
It was so fun.
It was one of my favorite moments.
Which is recapping the events of how Loki died.
Well, quote unquote
Quote, unquote,
recapping, because in the play, Loki's like, Thor's like, we'll build a great statue of you. And Loki's like, yeah, with my great big horns, and talk about how magnificent I was. And
It's like, you did it all for Asgard. Or it's like, I did
Yeah.
it. I did it for you.
I did it for you. It's clearly written by Loki.
Which is cool because again, you get Thor who's coming in and he sees that Heimdall is now no longer the Bifrost Guardian. Now it's by Carl Urban, who I love, is Scourge.
Oh, he was great. in this
Wearing
movie.
some real World of Warcraft armor.
Oh, can I take it back to the play real quick?
Okay.
There was a moment my wife and I had watching the movie that we were so excited about the play because we get really excited about people crossing over in other movies and stuff that they've been in together. So in that scene, you have Odin watching this play, who's played by Anthony Hopkins, and then you have Luke Hemsworth playing Thor, and they're in Westworld together, which made me really excited. And then you have Sam Neill, who
And then
is in this
Jeff
movie with Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum, who are together for the very first time since Jurassic Park, since 1993. Which made my insides squirm with a nerd on. I almost had a nerdgasm.
I believe the phrase you used before we started recording was
I had a nerdgasm. Yeah, I had an absolute nerdgasm in the pants.
Stay tuned for that. That is our late night erotica show.
And there was a few more, but they'll come up as we go through, I'm sure.
Thor comes to Asgard with things changed. Like, what the hell is this? He sees a giant statue of Loki. He sees this play happening, and immediately he's not fooled. And he throws his hammer super far, and he calls his hammer back, threatening to kill Odin.
He calls it back by putting his hand on the back of Odin's head.
Yeah,
And
he's like, nothing's gonna stop this hammer from coming to me.
so
and
it's up to your choice.
Pretty much playing chicken. Pretty much Asgardian chicken with this
With his
Odin.
brother.
Yeah, and then Odin, and then Loki, drops the disguise.
Facade.
Yes, and they, everyone sees Loki's, been fooling everyone, and Odin's missing. So they go on this mission back to Earth, back to Midgard, to find Odin. They end up finding out that Odin was left at a take care of home.
Oh,
spot.
an elderly home in New York City that has now been demolished.
Which ends up leading to a transportation circle that we all know and love from Doctor Strange. And they're in the House of Mystery, I think it's called.
Which was a really fun scene because the entire time Doctor Strange is just fucking with Thor. Or not fucking with him, but just like he's using his powers to teleport around, which is very normal for him, but Thor is having so much trouble keeping up with the changing environments and the questions that are being asked.
I think one of the best things is just the refillable stein here.
That he drinks in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Which is amazing.
Yeah, what's up with the Asgardians being able to put away liquor?
I know.
For sure. And so him and Doctor Strange had their funny banter. And
that great moment where Loki tries to attack him and he goes, fuck it, and just throws the portal at the two of them.
Yeah.
It's like, nah.
And the end of in Doctor Strange asks, like, why did you bring Loki here? They were looking for my father. Cool, I'll help you find your father. Boom, that's a credit scene from Doctor Strange. And then the scene that Corey's talking about, where they end up locating Odin and they send Odin off. And Odin is kind of, by himself in this vast valley looking onto things.
In Norway.
And then this is pretty much where all the exposition
breaks loose.
Yes. I want to take one step back real quick and talk about something that you and I have talked about, and that's Bathos within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I thought this movie did a really good job at its true sentimental moments, not taking away from it. So the moment where Odin disperses into nothingness, essentially, into this golden dust of life force.
He redigitizes.
There was no joking. There was no let's lighten the mood for a minute. They let you live in that for quite a long time. And I thought that was really cool because having watched the Every Frame of Painting where he talks about that, I think it's
Just Right.
Just Right. He talks about the Bathos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I was expecting it.
So let me explain what Bathos is. And Bathos, for those who may not know what it is, it's pretty much when you're writing yourself into a circle and you don't take yourself seriously. Where you cut every single dramatic thing with a joke. And typically this is seen a lot with writers who don't find their content heavy enough, or they don't find it, like, they're not confident in it. So you cut it with a joke because it's like you don't want to be corny.
So you're not committing 100% to the moment. So like the perfect example is...
For me is Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange, after the Ancient One dies, Stephen Strange, there's literally a close-up of him and he's like crying, and then his lifelike cape wipes a tear away immediately, and he's like, stop touching me. And it's like, dude, she died. Let them be sad.
Yeah.
But to me, that's been a big qualm of mine of Marvel and Disney, because they just don't let things be serious. Moving on real quick, just get the rest of the story done.
Yeah.
Odin kind of explains everything that's happening. He's like, I'm not under Loki's spell. Like, I'm about to die. My next voyage is for me. Thor, you must become king. Also, let you know you have a sister. She's about to break loose, and she's gonna fuck
BT
you.
Dub, and I'm out.
Yeah, and then he dissolves away.
Deuces.
Thor's angry, looking at Loki. He's like, "You did this. It's your fault," which goes on to Corey's point. Like, it has a good heaviness to it. Hela comes in. She's all sexy looking with her
Kate
skin
Blanchett
tight.
hasn't aged in 20 fucking years.
No, I think that there is a secret club of actors that
she's actually Galadriel.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Thor throws his hammer. She grabs it, smashes it, and then Thor wants to fight. And then Loki calls in the Scourge to bring him up to the Bifröst. In all actuality, they brought Hela because then Hela's
There's
fighting
that cool moment where Thor's like, no!
Yeah. And then Hela's fighting them in the Rainbow Bridge and
Rainbow Road.
They got knocked out of it.
They got knocked out of it and they land on some junk planet, which is beautiful looking. And that's where Jeff Goldblum's The Master is.
And Valkyrie.
Grandmaster, yeah.
Oh, Valkyrie's in Westworld too. It's another crossover, by the way.
Yes.
And you meet Valkyrie.
And you meet Valkyrie.
Who's dope as shit, by the way.
Who's this like dope girl who's drunk and drinks probably more than Thor does. Takes Thor into this pretty much gladiatorial thing that people wanted to see, that Hulk and Thor can actually finally fight.
And we finally get the fight.
And then there, Thor kind of like, I don't know, his Odin eye opens up and he sees Odin and gets a vision, and then his like true God of Thunder power awakens and just wipes the floor with Hulk, which I've always loved to see. To me, Hulk is like, yeah, of course he's going to whoop everyone's ass. But it's like,
Thor, he's big.
Yeah.
He's this big, scary monster kind of thing. I mean, of course he's going to wipe the floor with everybody.
That moment when he's like, yes! Yes, I know him. He's a friend from work. Apparently, that line was made up from a Make-A-Wish kid who was on set that day. He told Chris, he's like, you should say this. And it made it in. You should say it's a friend from work. And he was like, fuck, I should.
And then they made Chris more good looking.
Yeah.
With
they cut his
short
hair.
Yeah.
They gave him like a cool
Dope-ass
Tron-looking
paint.
The helmet.
Yeah.
I like the helmet. Some people didn't like the helmet.
I loved
Oh
it.
my God.
I wanted to come back.
We're complaining about the helmet.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So he wins the fight. Thor.
As long as he's not wearing hockey pads, I'm fine with it.
Or complaining about shaders, Anyway.
After the fight, they're both unconscious. Thor wakes up in this like winner's suite where the Hulk is. He asks Hulk where he's been. Hulk has just been like fighting, and Thor just needs to go back home.
Hulk's kind of a dick.
Yeah. He's
Full of himself.
he's pissed that Loki hasn't done anything to like get them out of there, and Loki's kind of been there for like 3 weeks because time and space, all that thing, those weird stuff.
Yeah.
And he ends up recruiting Valkyrie to pretty much bring this ragtag group together, the Revengers, to break out. They finally do after all these people on this planet are attacking them. They finally get back to Asgard, where the third act finally starts.
Yeah. Where Valkyrie decides, you know what? I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to join them and stand up for Asgard. They start the revolution on the Goldblum planet. Planet Goldblum. And Hela meets them there, essentially. And she's throwing spikes all over the fucking place. And Thor is, she almost kills Thor. And then he has that Odin eye vision again, right?
Yeah.
Takes an eye.
And at this point, Heimdall is kind of like this resistance leader where he's taken all the Asgardians and put them into like a mountain. So there's a kind of this ticking clock. Scourge
He's
is
trying
now,
to get him out of there.
Scourge is now like become this executioner because he's just trying to find glory.
Yeah.
And Hela's kind of like, yo, I'm gonna reveal all the bullshit. I have all this undead army. One of my great wolves.
Fenrir.
It's not Fenrir. It's a different dog.
I thought she said Fenrir.
It's like,
what have they done to
it's
you?
like friend.
I'm gonna, oh man.
Because there's multiple ones. Because I asked my friend, I was like, is this Fenrir? He's like, I don't know. Could be another one. So, and it was. So I was like, okay, cool. Because if those who are familiar with the actual Ragnarok story, Fenrir is the one that I think kills Odin, and the Midgard serpent is like the one that kind of devours everything.
Fenris. But yeah, it's him. It's him.
Is it?
Because she says the line. She says, Fenrir, what have they done to you?
Oh, okay.
And then she brings him back to life, and he's like 30 feet tall.
Dope.
You have zombie warriors.
Zombie dog warriors.
Yeah.
For Mr. Josh, Fenrir, the cloud symbol in Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
There you go.
So finally, Thor has his power because he ends up having this like kind of talk, which really reminded me of Harry Potter talking to Dumbledore.
Oh, the talk with Odin?
Yeah, and he says like, "I don't have my hammer. I'm not strong enough."
Oh, and he lost his eye
he loses his eye
right
and then
before, and then he has his vision.
and he says, "It's like I don't have my power." And I think one of my favorites is like, "You're not the god of hammers.
Yeah.
You're the god of thunder."
Yeah.
And then they fight, and then Scourge kind of like has his redeeming factor. The Hulk is fighting the Fenrir.
With destroy.
Oh, yeah. Destroy.
His
Together,
AK-47s.
they destroy.
That was pretty funny.
Scourge having his moment where he's like, I got to do it.
And then Thor finally realizes that it's not a matter of stopping Ragnarok, but having it happen because, really kind of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So he ends up asking Loki to take the crown from the very beginning of the film, throw it into the internal flame, and then starting Ragnarok.
So he goes to the vault, he grabs it, he looks at the Tesseract as he walks by.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, and then keeps walking, does it, and Surprise, whatever, becomes 1,000 feet tall and starts saying all this epic shit, even though no one's in the city.
And one of my favorite moments is Hulk going,
jumping
onto him.
And he's like,
no,
but big
for once in your
monster.
life, don't smash.
Yeah, but big monster. Not now.
And then Hela is like, yo, this is my throne. This is how I get power. We have to fight. And then you see Scourge just throw this giant sword and supposedly kill her. My big rule of movies is show me the body.
Yep.
Show me
Yeah.
the body.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't know what's going to happen with that. And then they end up deciding that, cool, Asgard is not a place, it's its people. So we're moving on this ship and we're leaving. End of the movie, pretty much Thor, Loki, all brother. Valkyrie's
He's
like,
really there.
yeah, Valkyrie's like, hey, I found my place amongst the Valkyries again. And Bruce Banner and Hulk is kind of like now balanced. They figure that stuff out. And Heimdall is kind of there to kind of help him with his people. And so they make Asgard in this ship, kind of maybe
Yeah.
like Asgardia. I don't know.
And head to Earth.
He becomes king,
He becomes king,
and they
his
head to
people.
Earth.
The
And-
SS Asgard.
So no eyeball, no hammer, short hair,
Yep,
and he's a king of the people.
And still sexy.
that's a good summary. That was really quick.
I
That was
tried to be real quick.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
Yeah, should we dive in? Should we
Let's-
talk about the
let's
things
dive
we
in.
liked first?
Yeah, let's
Then
talk about
qualms.
let's talk about like some of our favorite moments.
And again, just to remind our listeners out there, we love these movies. The reason we break them down, we analyze them.
I think a big thing to just talk about too is it's a director,
Oh, Taika Waititi
Taika Waititi.
has a special place in my
Yeah.
heart.
His previous two films were
What We Do in the Shadows and Hunt for the Wilder People.
So
but he's
good.
also done a lot of work with Flight of the Conchords.
and he's best known because of most of his stuff is improvised, right?
Yeah, a large majority of it. I mean, Hunt for the Wilder People was not, I don't think.
But it's comedy.
But 80% of, they say 80% of Ragnarok was. And I guarantee you like 100% of What We Do in the Shadows was improvised.
So good.
Absolutely.
He also plays Korg, the voice
Oh
of
my
Korg.
God.
Yeah,
He's
probably,
the rock monster.
Probably my like sleeper character choice. Like
Yeah.
my favorite. Every time he was on screen, I was so excited. When he's like, "Where is this place?" He's like, "Yeah, it's kind of like a circle, but like a freaky circle." I loved that line. But like a freaky circle, you know?
And just kind of I guess a logistics point is that it made about I think $141 million opening weekend,
So it's crushing it.
425 worldwide, worldwide.
It's at a rolling release.
Yeah. So it's huge. It's going strong. It's breaking the curse of Marvel sequels that they don't do as well as their predecessors because none of the Thor movies actually did that well.
No.
So
No.
which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
and
they weren't my favorites.
this is the highest rated MCU film this year.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And I think that kind of leads into what I loved about the movie, which is one of the reasons I think it succeeded so well is the marketing and just the visual style
Yeah.
that they gave it, like the 80s retro, like
the color,
Zeppelin, all the
Immigrant
color.
Well, I
like-
think it's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of thing when they're like, oh,
Yeah,
this
It's like,
works.
this kind of works, and we could use that here a little bit because it's so like the contrast between that and Dark World.
Yeah.
is
And even the first one.
very noticeable.
Yeah.
And in the first one for sure. Yeah. But that was something I was in it, like I loved the whole visual
And what
style.
a perfect song for Thor.
yeah.
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 And like the Trash Planet or whatever that was could have been dark and dismal, but easily, but it was all colorful and bright. And
Yeah.
It looks like
And
Nintendo
Goldblum's
designed it.
DJing. He's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
DJing while he's telling. Like,
It's funny because it's like a retro style, but it's what I imagine movies would look like if they were made in the 80s.
Yeah.
I dig that.
It's
know what
kind
I
of funny where I think MCU is starting to establish that the 80s vibe is just in space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just worked. It just worked really well. That's one of the biggest like pluses I give this movie.
Interesting.
I dug it.
I have an opposite feeling, but
You always do. You always
Josh,
do.
how did you enjoy the movie?
yeah.
I really liked it. I enjoyed the movie. Yes. You guys were talking about, what is that term? Bathos?
Bathos. Yeah,
Ba-
Bathos.
Bathos.
It's like I can see that about some of the MCU movies where it's like, okay, give me the moment to experience that emotion of what just happened. And this movie I felt had a really good balance of hilarious and like, oh man, that's really deep or whatever. And it's like, the whole movie I was laughing and I was like, oh yeah. It was just a lot of fun to watch it and going into it not knowing really anything about the actual universe of what happens with in the comic books or anything like that. And just having watched all the MCU movies a few months ago, being kind of fresh to it a little bit to go, oh, okay. See how
Knowing
this
where
continues.
it sits within all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm always excited about an MCU movie because I'm more interested in the bigger story that's going on.
Right.
In the phase.
Connecting all the dots.
Yeah, connecting all the dots and going, oh, okay, interesting. Okay. God damn it, Tom, you're just giving me the eye. Grumpy Tom.
Should I go next? Because you're gonna.
I feel like I can't like anything.
We're talking about the things we like.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
talk
right.
about the things we like.
Korg made me laugh every time.
He was the best. And his little, he's like an insect, but with knives on his hands. So yeah, he's got that going for him.
Is that an ectoplasm?
Yeah. Get out of here, ghost. That's probably my favorite line of the whole movie. Tom, what did you like?
So I like again, we've had like years without seeing Thor. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh shit, he still
Last
matters.
one was 2013.
when I moved here. 2015. We saw Age of Ultron together.
Oh, I meant his own movie.
Oh, Thor
was
movie?
2013.
Oh, God, yeah, it was before I moved down here. But yeah, and it was kind of cool just to see where the pieces were picked up. One thing that I think is always tough, and I think that this happens a lot with comic books, is you make such good villains, you don't want them to be villains anymore. Look at Venom, Agent Venom, and even the symbiote itself is not even a villain anymore. There's so many
Loki.
people that have turned into anti-heroes. Like, again,
You want a reason to keep him around.
yeah. And I just love the interplay between Thor and Loki the entire time.
Oh my God. Yeah.
My big thing I feel like is development. If I see development with the characters, like I can see them like from one place to another by the end of the film, I enjoy it. I love that. I think the tough thing that movies have is being able to do that, because a TV show, that's what you're pretty much doing.
Yeah.
In a movie, you got to tell the plot, you got to keep them interested in it, and you also got to like develop the character in some way so that from the beginning of the film they've learned something and now are different. So
there's the Harmon's
Joseph Campbell's hero story.
Campbell, yeah. I would say Dan Harmon because that's who I heard talk about it. But yeah, it's going back to the same place and having learned something, which is
The
what
hero's
he does.
journey.
Because he starts at the beginning of the film being like, I don't want to be king. And then by the end of it, he is king and has realized he's like, this is what I have to do. I'd say I'm on board with you. I think the character development, I mean, that's Taika's strength is character development and smaller moments. A lot of the one-liners, the little improvised lines were great. I think one of my favorite parts was the scenes between Thor and Bruce Banner when he came back, and they had that little scene together where he's like, I'm going to wear a disguise. He's like, oh, me too. I'll be Tony. He's like, what? You're in a disguise. No one knows who you are. Or when he's like, you're not a good friend, you don't care. I just told you I'd be the Hulk and never come back, and you don't even care a little bit. He's like, no, I prefer Bruce Banner. The Hulk's all smash, and I like you.
It's like science.
But the reason I just laughed a minute ago is because I remembered my actual favorite line of the entire movie that I had to like cover my mouth to stop from laughing to disrupt the rest of the scene was when Mark Ruffalo comes over. He's like, a minute ago, he just told me this terrible shit. And Thor's like, yes, he is a trickster. One time he turned himself into a snake. Knowing how much I like snakes, I picked it up, and then he turned himself back into himself and said, it's me, and stabbed me. Was my favorite line of the whole. I lost my shit during that line. But as far as like epic moments go, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say one of my other favorite moments is growing up as a little anime kid who loved like watching anime fights and then playing video games. I grew up on Dragon Ball Z. Seeing the fight scenes as like in a way where it's done, we have the technology to do it.
Yeah.
So I love seeing like from the beginning fight scene where he's like fighting hordes of demons and he's using the hammer.
When he does the Spitfire and he shields the fire. Oh,
I love
Mjolnir,
that.
and I mean, I think it like plays. It was done, I think, a little bit more to play into the plot more, but just using the way he used Mjolnir and just like almost
dropping
like
it in the dragon's mouth.
Yeah,
Be like, stay.
holding him down, stay.
Yeah.
Well, I think a cool thing is like I don't know how much it might have influenced or if James Gunn influenced. I mean, I feel like James Gunn has influenced the MCU in such a big way. One of my favorite sequences in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was when Yondu has his spear flying around and they have a
the arrow?
montage. Yeah. And this kind of played that same thing with the hammer in a better way that the second one didn't really do that well. So I love just like, cool, like this feels good. And it had an opening very similar to almost like Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I love fight scenes, and when he became God, then I was like, oh my God, it's over 9,000. It's just like that's what I was thinking the entire time. I was like, cool, like full powered, like awesome fights.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, nothing's gonna beat Mr. Blue Sky from Guardians of the Galaxy.
That was a
2.
pretty good opening.
Made me laugh so much.
I think
Yeah.
I can't move on without mentioning that my actual favorite part, favorite aspect is Goldblum playing Goldblum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like
the melt stick, and his little helper is actually one of Taika's favorite actors. She was in Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah.
Like, he just interrupted me. It's not a capital offense.
Yeah, the melt stick. Why are you handing me the melt stick? It just interrupted me.
It's like, were you just waiting to say that? Doesn't even start with a B.
Yeah. All right. You can see him. You can see him break too when he says, what does that smell like? And she goes, bent toast. Jeff Goldblum starts to laugh, and then they cut away. I loved that.
So is that all the favorite parts we have to show?
I mean, I could go on forever. I think the fact that he allowed it to be majority improvised really helped show off not only Chris Hemsworth's comedy chops, which he has. Like, he's got
he really
great
does have.
comedy chops. But allowed, and I think you touched on this the other night, allowed for those small moments to feel really true, and allowed like the moments between him and Bruce Banner, or him and Valkyrie, or him and Hulk, where they're talking about who's fire and who's, hey, but you're like water and I'm like fire.
I loved Get Help.
Get Help was
Get Help
great.
was funny.
I was like, I don't want to do Get Help again. And I was like,
It's embarrassing when they're humiliating.
they use Get Help once and they bring it back when it's like with Hela. It's like, I don't want to use Get Help.
I'm not using Get Help. I really enjoyed Hulk's conversation, and it's the first time Mark Ruffalo voiced Hulk. I believe Lou Ferrigno did the other ones.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time he
Yeah.
got to do all of the voice acting for it.
It's the first time we hear Hulk have dialogue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Angry Lady.
Yeah.
I loved it, all of it.
I think one of my favorite things, I made
When he's nude?
Well, no.
I didn't need to see
I
that.
could do less without CGI butts. But for me is when Thor and Hulk are fighting in the Coliseum, and then Hulk picks him up the exact same way that Loki landed on the ground.
Loki just cheers.
Now I know how it feels. And
He's
I was
like, yes, that's how it feels. And he looks at Goldblum and he's like,
and I remember literally in the theater watching. I was like, Hulk has to do that if Loki's watching, just because it would just make such a good like nod
Parallel,
Yeah.
You're rewarding the viewers who have watched.
There was a
all
lot of
these films.
rewarding in this.
Yeah.
Well,
movie.
even before
there
that, he
was.
was like frozen stiff, and he's like, I gotta get off this planet.
Yeah, that was so good. But yeah, I love that part. I was like, that's to me, I think that's when a filmmaker is actually like looking at all the content given to them and then celebrating it.
yeah,
with them.
I agree. That's a really good thing to point out. They had they did have a lot of it in here, but that was a great moment, because that was my favorite moment from Avengers.
Yeah.
That I remember laughing so fucking hard at that. But yeah, I don't know. I could go on and on about.
For me, it's kind of one of those thinking about the Avengers scene when he just like make this like big speech, and then Hulk comes in and just beats the hell out of him.
Yeah, he's starting to tell. He's like, I'm a god. Yeah, and he grabs him by the leg.
Pulls him.
And it reminds me of, did you guys ever see that movie Deep Blue Sea? It's like a shark movie.
Sam Jackson.
Oh god.
And then just the shark comes in and kills him. Just
During
like
his epic,
after
like,
his
we're gonna
epic-
do it, and then it just.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, you think water's fast? See ice.
Yeah. So anyway.
I agree with that. But I can go on and on about shit I loved, but let's get into the picking it apart kind
The
of
Grandpa
thing.
Tom sequence.
Yeah, I'll start because I know Tom's got. I can see he's already tense. He's smiling and crying with his eyes all at the same time. My little qualms with it, I guess. I didn't have many. It's definitely a different storyline than I thought it was going to be. I wanted to see more Hela.
I agree with that.
I think that's going to be probably pretty common throughout all this. I love Cate Blanchett. I always have.
And she was amazing.
The coolest fucking thing, just pulling her hair back and having it become those horns.
And she has this great voice, and like
her powers are awesome too. Like,
but you
shooting the
wanted to
spikes
see
and
more.
stuff.
Like
Yeah.
it was.
I wanted to see her do more because Anthony Hopkins did such a great job, or whoever wrote that speech, of building her up and what she was and how, and then when she tells the story with the ceiling, how it's painted, and you find out that she was this executioner who brought vengeance upon people, and you saw her wipe out one of the 9 realms. Like, I guess that my biggest qualm is I just wanted more.
It's
of
interesting with that I feel like that's like one variety of like a story to tell, which is like the bad guy comes in, like ruins everything. Your protagonists are like, in this case, light years away or whatever. And then you don't really have a whole lot of interaction back and forth until like towards the end. Right. Which
It was
is
kind of anticlimactic.
which is nice for character development stories and stuff like that. You get to spend a lot of time and with those characters they like to see, but you don't get to see like the evil person interacting with them as much as you would prefer, and then they kind of end up getting
Because all
the
they
short
really
end of
had
the stick, I feel.
was the scene in the field and then the scene in the throne room.
A film
Right?
that does that really well is No Country for Old Men,
Yeah.
because Tommy Lee Jones and Javier Bardem don't actually ever meet. But this one's a little different. We're talking about apples and oranges at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
But am I correct in saying that those are the only 2 scenes that they have together?
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when they first meet, they're in the Bifrost, and then the very end.
Yeah.
My qualm was I felt like the end was a little anticlimactic. Like she was such a badass,
Yeah.
and it kind of
They almost Bane deathed her.
it was
They
kind of
shot
like
her with a bat pod, and that was
and it was
Yeah.
like doop doop boo boo, and then I was
there's the bow.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think that might play into Tom's thing of like, we probably haven't seen the end.
Yeah. Yes. I think so too. I agree. But it is one of those things that I was like,
Well, so the thing with Thanos is that at the very introduction of him, it's like to deal with them is to deal with death. And then he turns around and he smiles. Because Thanos, the Mad Titan, is kind of a nerd because he's like obsessed with things, but he's also in love with Lady Death. Mm-hmm. And Hela represents death. Mm-hmm. So we don't know how much that'll play into it. And the thing is, for me, if they're going to have Avengers Infinity War with Thanos, he could die. And then 4, Hela could bring him back with other things, like bring back that with Red Skull.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That'd be cool. I'd be down with that.
But I think I kind of agree with Josh where it's like you build up the character so much as far as like Thor finding his true powers and all that stuff, but then like that's not what takes out Hela, which is kind of like the weird kind of thing. I think it's kind of like what you're getting at.
Deus Ex Machina almost at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they had to resort to, which is kind of like clever for the plot or whatever. But
and
like
the thing it did though that I liked about it is it does allow Loki to redeem himself in that sense.
Right.
Because without that ending, you would have him not doing that.
Yeah.
Like he did show up, but it
you
would
could
never
argue,
be.
yeah, you could argue that it's Loki not necessarily having to do it by himself or whatever, and being with his whole people and
here's another thing that I would say is it's like I get what you're saying, and it's almost I'm the same way when it comes to a villain dying. If I haven't seen the body, then I just assume that they're still alive.
I mean, that happens with heroes all the time. Like, there's a room full of zombies. One of the heroes gets backstabbed. The door closes. That's it. And all of a sudden, at the very end, they come in with the sniper guns. Like, I got you, bro. It's like, all right.
But my thing is, it's like I don't think of when I go see an MCU movie. I'm not thinking, oh, the whole universe. I'm more so thinking about the one movie that I'm seeing right now. And it's like, can we just focus on this one? And give me a good story where the ending, like the battle at the end is really like, holy shit. And like, they really had to try really, really fucking hard to beat this person that was destroying them. And, and then all of a sudden it's kind of like, oh, hey, yeah. You remember that thing? Yeah.
Well, maybe Tom can elaborate a little more on this during his thing. But like, I think that's one of the downsides to having the MCU. Like there's great stuff that can happen, like the moments where we have those callbacks for fans who have seen it all. You get to have all these superheroes like in the same movie like Avengers, but at the same time now you've got to tie shit together.
Yeah.
You can't have these standalone movies because you have to think, well, how are they going to affect the next movie that's coming out? Because they all have to tie into together. The post-credit scenes always tie into like the next movie coming out, I think.
Yeah.
Did you have any qualms, Mr.?
Yeah, I had a couple. My biggest thing is actually, there was the separation of the protagonist and the antagonist, but more so, I feel like we almost got like 2 different movies that like I feel like this could have easily been a 2-part like movie. Like, and they knowing Marvel, I'm kind of surprised that it didn't end up being, that them making more money or whatever after having it be 2 movies. I wanted an entire movie with Planet Hulk. Like, I feel like there was enough there to just spend a whole like 2 hours there and to make it interesting. And then like they could have spent like the second movie back at, Asgard or whatever. And that would have given him an opportunity to kind of flesh out Hela more and to really dive into
flesh
that.
out Hulk more too.
Flesh out Hulk more and yeah. So that was my only thing. It was like I felt a little disjointed from the 2 different.
Did you feel cheated?
Not, I wouldn't go as far as saying cheated because I enjoyed my time. I loved every bit of it, but I just wanted more. It's kind of like it's that age old like grab of like I didn't dislike anything. I just wanted more of it. And in this case, like I feel like they could have spent a little more time developing everything, and they could have provided more.
Yeah,
in different ways. That was like broad strokes gripes, and I think that's the big thing for me. Yeah, that's the big thing. I was looking over my notes. I was like, we talked about everything else, but yeah.
Cheat sheet. How dare you?
But that was my biggest thing. That was the most obvious thing to me.
Okay.
Grandpa Tom.
I do, talking about Planet Hulk, I do love the fact that they had Beta Ray Bill on the building of
the statues, the faces.
I did like that, which to me in that mindset, it's like, well then if that means Beta Ray Bill already exists, then does he already have his hammer?
Interesting. Are we gonna see him? Because
Yeah.
I would fucking.
Who's
Beta Ray Bill is this jackal-looking alien dude.
I'll show you a picture while he's doing
During the time of in the Thor comic books, Thor becomes unworthy and all that stuff, and then this alien Beta Ray Bill picks up the hammer and he becomes worthy. He becomes he has the power of Thor, and he uses it to like save his people. And then later on, Thor goes through all this shit, and then Thor ends up becoming worthy again. So it's like battle for the hammer. And then Odin's like, cool, you know what? I'm gonna make another hammer for you. And then gives Beta Ray Bill his hammer. I forget the name of it, but he gives him another
Dope
he gives him a
hammer.
And so there's 2 hammer wielders. And it actually is kind of cool talking about it now. This timestamps it, obviously. But what's happening right now in the Marvel Now universe, Thor is Jane Foster, and then Thor, Thor that we know, Odin's son, is just known as Odin's son.
Right.
And the thing is, like, what happened recently is that the Ultimate Universe and the regular canon universe has met, and really what's happening is like Odin's son is on this spiritual journey to like figure out what he's doing. Ragnarok's happened, Fear itself's happened, all this stuff has happened, and the hammer from the Ultimate Thor that died is calling him. And it's like, you do have a hammer. And this is, for anyone that knows like a visual, Thor's hammer in the regular universe is the one that we see, the square, rectangle, ugly looking
Mjolnir
thing. Mjolnir. But they're both called
Right,
Mjolnir.
right.
And then in the Ultimate Universe, it's the hammer with an axe on the back of it. So it's kind of like he's worthy to have both, but does he want it? So we'll see what happens with that in the MCU.
I'm surprised he didn't go back and like try to fix Mjolnir or find the pieces or.
It's a
rewield
dwarf
it.
star. So
Yeah, I think it's done.
And okay, so
Qualms.
Going to qualms. My big thing about Thor was, and you can expect it with the MCU is the bathos thing, but the way that to me the film was marketed to me, the trailers wise, like I felt there was gonna be comedy, but there was enough action pieces to be like, this is still gonna be action comedy. But what I got out of it was just a comedy with a little bit of action. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying it gave me the wrong expectations. It's kind of like when Pirates of the Caribbean first came out, the teaser for it was these skeletons underwater walking, and it looked like a horror movie.
Yeah.
Then immediately after that, you get Jack Sparrow, dun 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 dun, and it was all cool action. So I got the proper expectation. I wasn't walking into Pirates of the Caribbean thinking it's going to be a horror movie. So walking into this, I was kind of like, I could see that Guardians of the Galaxy has a big aesthetic influence on it, but also I felt like I thought it should have been half action, half comedy. I mean, there's films like Deadpool, which did well with the comedy and the action, but it was marketed as a comedy 100%. And so it didn't surprise me too much. But the thing that is kind of to Ollie's point, I felt like the entire Hela storyline, it was an afterthought.
It felt that way, yeah.
Obviously, that's what they
moments.
wrote it to have a story, but you could
But
tell.
they didn't spend enough time
Yeah,
developing
Why
it,
are we
like-
bringing Hela in?
and
What is she gonna do?
You felt Taika Waititi's heart is in all of the trash planet. It's all in the development of
Right.
the characters. And for me, kind of to your point, like I didn't give a fuck about
Yeah.
Hela. I didn't give a fuck about Asgard and Heimdall and all that. I haven't seen Heimdall throughout like for 40 minutes of the movie. Why should I care about him now? And it's like, cool, he's got long hair and he's saving people. I don't know anything else that's happened to him. They kind of do this like, oh, he's not welcomed here anymore. It's like, why?
And part of that has to do with the director. As much as like Disney prefers, I guess, the directors to kind of not have like their style be overly like, influential on the movie. But you definitely felt the style here, and I think that in this case, like while he's an incredible director, I think his action scene chops just aren't there, like all the way, and like. The Hela fighting the soldiers, I guess is another gripe of mine, was like some of the action sequences. Like Hela fighting the soldiers was like CG. And it just reminded me of like don't hate me for saying this for those who loved it, but it felt like the action sequence in Matrix Reloaded.
Yes, that's exactly what it felt like.
Like
Just
where all the
1,000 of
agents-
I got
Agent
that.
Smith, and he's just like spinning on a pole. It's just like,
I hated
come on.
that.
and in that scene, it was like you could tell it was Keanu Reeves for a while, but then there was like one shot
bad.
where it switched to CG and was CG for the rest
was
of
so
that
bad.
scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, looking back at that, it looked like a terrible video game, and
Yeah.
I don't want it to look like this like 5 years from now. Looking back at this action scene, so that was like I really didn't like that action scene at all. But the rest of it, like I feel like some of the action scenes were kind of muddled, and there's a lot of wide shots, kind of like concealing, like getting in like too specific. And then they kind of covered it really well with like the score and like the editing like looked really cool. So it was still like enjoyable to watch, but that would be my other sort of like gripe with it or whatever, is kind of like the caliber of action scenes just weren't
There for you.
there. Yeah, 100%.
Interesting.
I guess another worry for me was like with Thor. I never worried about him. And
True.
and the tough thing was like he's in this gladiator planet. You're gonna fight this like champion. And it's like I don't care because it's God of Thunder. He's
They're not gonna
super
kill
strong.
you.
They're not gonna kill him.
But we also know he's in Infinity War.
Yeah.
And that's like another one of those downsides to
Of the
having
MCU.
a universe.
And we all know that he's gonna fight Hulk because we've seen the trailers. But also, I can't believe I'm gonna say this. Like I feel like the Korg character kind of destroyed a lot of the mood that you could have had. Like obviously they wanted to be like, cool, he's gonna fight this guy. We don't know who it is, quote unquote. But like every time he was in the shot, I'm like, nothing serious is gonna happen. And so for me, it was almost like a walking spoiler alert.
Oh, Korg?
Yeah.
No, wrong. Wrong.
No, I'm saying, but the thing is, like, it's tough because it's like
kidding.
it's a true like I enjoy hearing this actor portray this character and say the funny things and have this little bug with the knife hands. I found those funny, but to me, it's just like, was it necessary for the story? Not necessarily. And you come across like I'll bring up the BVS syndrome where there's too much goddamn story and not enough feeling, right? So you don't get enough like of the sense of like what the world feels like. You're just getting like, here's information, swallow it, don't choke.
I feel like we're getting to that point in the MCU where it's like, yeah, it's all threaded together, but you also have all this baggage that it's sort of like in some instances, like with the Loki scene, it pays off wonderfully and it's amazing. But then there's like those other parts where it does kind of feel like it's dragging some stuff that is kind of left
Weighing
behind.
it down.
Weighing it down
They
a
have
little
to put
bit.
a bow on and put an end
Right.
to or
It's
whatever.
it's not just the stuff forward from it. It's also the stuff behind it that kind of
I get that.
drags it a little bit. And by the way, I love that Hela just walks into the thing and just like shoves the gauntlet is like fake.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like,
That was really good.
Oh,
That was
okay.
good.
I loved that.
Yeah, a real quick way to kind of get through that plot hole.
Yeah.
My main thing is kind of just like overall assembly of it. So it just didn't
See, I
feel
had
that
the
way.
opposite. I felt like there wasn't as much story and there was a lot of heart in this.
No, I say that.
Oh, I
say
thought you were
there's-
saying the opposite.
Well, I say there's a lot of heart between all the development of the characters, but the thing is like kind of just, pretty much Ollie's point is like, give me more of that. Like I could tell that's where
Yeah.
the director's shining and he's kind of having to just swallow and go through all of the actual storyline stuff.
Oh, and is that what you were saying? Like the
Yeah.
there's only so much a director can do before the production studio is like, well, you need to do these other things.
Yeah.
Right. Like Joss Whedon had to deal with the stuff that's coming like in front of him with Age of
2.
Ultron. But then like in this one, we're starting to feel like the stuff that happened before is also kind of weighing in and like the obligation of having to like make sure that
It's
stuff
informing some of
stays
the
in
decisions.
context. Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what's interesting because like with Infinity Gauntlet, presumably that's going to be the sort of the crescendo or whatever, or the end of
Infinity
like the
War,
past
yeah.
3 phases or whatever, and then phase 4 is going to be like kind of like a reset,
Maybe,
kind
I
of.
don't know.
Probably.
But yeah, I guess that's been my big thing is like one, I was never worried for any character. The one thing I
Yeah.
really I thought they did well was Hela getting introduced to Asgard. She immediately kills the Warriors 3.
Yeah.
And I thought that's something
Oh,
that
I
like
know.
A lot of
That
people
was-
hated that, but I liked it.
to me, like it's like Zack Snyder killing off Jimmy Olsen. It's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, important characters that shouldn't be dead are dead.
Yeah.
Like-
No shit's real.
Yeah.
I remember after like about 5 minutes after that scene as it passed, I was like, no, they're dead. Okay.
They're dead.
Which-
They got
well,
knives in their bodies.
Yeah.
I think is bold.
Knife
but-
spikes.
I think it's bold, but it's also like you can't keep like you have nothing to do with them. And it's kind of like what CW did with DC's Legends of Tomorrow. It's like you have all these great actors playing these like cool roles. You have nothing to fucking do with them now. So it's like kill them. Just fucking kill them. Because again, they can come back. It's comic book world.
Yeah.
So for right now, let's not have to bring them in every goddamn movie and just kill them now.
Right.
Because then you'd wonder in Avengers Infinity War, it's like, where's the Warriors 3? Why are they not helping? Where were they in Age of Ultron? Why are they not helping? Why are they not in Age of, like you ask these questions. It's like, why wasn't War Machine or why wasn't Captain Falcon in Age of Ultron? Like you ask these questions like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, so that kind of stuff. But then immediately after that, they just kind of pulled back and there's like, no one's going to die. No more. And Scourge, you really didn't care if he died or not because he's like,
Oh, I did.
he's playing a douchebag. And then finally he makes his redeeming
I was
thing.
sad.
Yeah.
Do you know the cool Easter egg with the shake weight?
No.
So apparently Taika Waititi was in Green Lantern.
Yeah, he was.
And immediately when he got casted for that, he's like, I'm going to just buy shit. And he bought the shake weight. And so that's the exact same shake weight
That's
he
his?
bought. Mhm.
Oh, man. Oh, another crossover. Carl Urban and Kate Blanchett, Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also in New Zealand. I don't know. Where Taika's from.
But yeah, I mean, so those are my biggest.
Great cast.
The funny thing is, like, I don't really have a lot of qualms, but those qualms were like the biggest glaring ones that kind of just really changed the way I watched it and affected the way I looked at the entire thing in general. And I do agree with Corey. Like, the tough thing with having an MCU is that you have literally, you can't please everybody. You have a TV show, movie thing, but you have a movie, but you also have a TV series. It's like, what is it going to be? How are you going to please everybody? How are you going to keep everything connected? How are you going to keep all the plot holes? How are you going to, celebrate the directors and, the actors who want to do what they want with the roles and the writers and stuff like that? I feel like this movie was actually what like, in the What If universe, like if Edgar Wright had done Ant-Man. Because I feel, would you say that this movie is a Taika Waititi film?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Easily.
And that was like a big thing was like, Marvel at first wanted to make their movies and they had the directors who would just put people in seats. And Edgar Wright had said the quotes like, I wanted to make an Ant-Man movie, but Marvel doesn't want to make an Edgar Wright movie. And I feel like this was a
Taika movie for sure.
Yeah.
So like, it's pretty cool to kind of see that.
Because you can watch his other ones and then watch this right after and go, oh yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Same guy.
Yeah.
Stars out of 5.
We're doing it right now?
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'm going to go first.
You are Grump Tom. Old man Tom, gun to your head.
3.8.
Wow. All right. 3.8. Okay. I'm at 4 for it.
I'm 4 as well.
I'm a 4. I'm a
There we
solid
go.
4.
Yeah.
I like that.
Super enjoyable. Loved every minute
Laughed
that
a lot.
I was looking
cried
at.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I think about it like in the last time we did like a rating was for Blade Runner. And so like just kind of thinking like in the same scale, it's like Thor Ragnarok was pretty much a popcorn movie for me. It's like something I'd watch. It's not something I'd super analyze. I don't expect it winning any type of Academy Awards or anything like that. But if it was on the TV, if there was nothing else to watch, I'd leave it on then,
Yeah.
If someone wanted to watch it with me right now, I'd go watch it again.
Yep.
So
we're going after?
Yeah, we're going to go after it right after.
it's late.
Let's do it.
We'd like to introduce a quick new little segment here about fan mail.
Yeah.
If we could take a second.
Yeah,
we got some. Thank you.
We got some. So first of all, thank you. We've been receiving responses like a lot. So it's been awesome. But we'd like to call out a few people. Boom Night. She has been posting on everything that we post and saying some amazing things. So thank you.
She reached out to us.
Check out her page on Instagram. She's dope cosplayer.
Yeah.
Cosplay. Gabby over at Disagreeable Nerd. We received some mail from a user on Instagram named Ghost Gem.
Nice.
And
Hi, Ghost Gem.
Hi, Ghost Gem. And Teddy Pip.
Yeah.
They all reached out just to tell us how much they love the show.
I also want to give a shout out to the Azorian one and the Mad Piper. Had some great conversations with them on Instagram over some of the Batman posts.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for that.
Yeah, love the conversation that's going on our social media. Just love hearing what you guys have to say. And
it really refuels us.
Yeah.
It refuels us to talk more about it because the thing is like
We go, oh, people are listening. That's
you guys
nice.
love it. We love it. And we love the fact that you guys now feel involved in our conversation. And we really want to bring you guys into it as much as possible. So be part of it.
Yeah.
Like
Keep
talk
it
to us
coming.
on all of our social network.
Yeah. Email us, Twitter, Instagram.
yeah, if you go to our website, there is a contact page. You can send us an email via that. There's also a survey page on there. You can fill that out. Tell us a little bit about yourself. If you have any comments or anything like that, you can go on iTunes review. I mean, we read those.
Yep.
We can see it. And like, if you have people have already given suggestions for
give us
episodes.
topics. That'd be great.
There's a Pan's Labyrinth. Labyrinth suggestion.
Oh my God,
out there.
really? Yes.
So Guillermo del Toro.
I'm so about that. Talk
He's got a
about
new movie
Hellboy.
coming out someday.
Yeah.
Someday,
Oh,
but
looks
we
so
have
good.
some stuff to talk about, but we'd love to hear what you have to talk about.
So thank you all you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
One other thing we'd like to talk about, Josh, you may want to speak about this, the t-shirts.
Oh yes. So next week, that is November 16th, we have t-shirts launching. We are super excited to have our first nerd on swag.
And not only t-shirts, you can get your own bro tanks or girl
Yes,
tanks?
we are
Tank
going to have
tops.
girl shirts, girl fit shirts, and tank tops.
Request by me, tank tops.
Yeah, he was that weird. He was that weird guy.
I want
So yeah, we've got some t-shirts coming soon. The link will be everywhere. It'll be all over the
do a
place.
big old post about it. Where
but
will we post about it?
we are going to post on Instagram, which is Nerd on the Podcast. You can get us on Twitter, Nerd on the Pod. You can get us on Facebook, Nerd on the Podcast. YouTube, again, we're not big boys yet, so you got to search for us, Nerd on the Podcast. We are pretty much now the first one that shows up, so that's cool.
Dope.
Yeah, so
And if they
all the
forget
episodes go onto YouTube. If you forget all of that, if you remember one thing, nerdonthepodcast.com.
where you can also help us out and donate if you'd like.
You could if you want, yeah. It's on there.
Lays her up.
Yeah,
Not going to say no.
If you have some spare cash that we don't
some
know
gil
about.
that
you want to,
spare cash that Ollie was talking about last.
AKA tax refund.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have any gil, send it our way. Love that.
Where can they find you?
You could find me at Tall Dark Not Ugly on everything, which is Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, which I think some of you have because I've added and I don't know who you are. So keep doing that. You can also find me on YouTube as Thomas with Borsuth and IMDb and even Vimeo. And on PlayStation Network, you can find me as Tall Dark _N0T Ugly. And you, Corey?
You can find some more of Tom's stuff along with mine at We Are Storyboard, BORED.com, or on Instagram at We Are Storyboard. You can find me at Corey89 or on Blizzard, Corthan, CORTHAN. Let's play some Warcraft.
Ali, you can find me at FutureFoe on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube /FutureFoe Plays. You can find me on PSN, Future_Foe. Let's play some video games. And also on Blizzard. FutureFoe, I don't know the little number. But hit me up on Twitter and I'll let you know what's going on.
There
We
you
can play some games.
Nice.
Cool, guys.
And
Feel good.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Joshua S. Manley. I mean, that's pretty much where I'm mostly active. I'm still figuring out the Twitter. I'm like an old man that's going, is this the button that I push? Okay,
Yes.
that. You can find me on Twitter, speaking of which, and I know that Tom hates this because he cringes every time. My username is just Joshinya.
He looks
I
me
loves
straight
it.
in the eye.
I loves it so much. It's my favoriteest. And you can find me on Facebook, Joshua Sterling Manley. You can find me on IMDb and see all my work there, Joshua Sterling. And on PSN, Sterling J85. Let's play. It'll be fun. But everybody at home, as always,
Nerd on.
Ending broadcast.